Hello, church. Pastor Ryan asked me if I would answer a quick question, 3 to 5 minutes, about how I found my purpose with God. I believe that was a question. Found my purpose in God's plan. My walk into Christianity was fairly slow. Raised in a Christian household, but never really took the faith for my own, not until I was in my 20s. And it was fairly analytical. It was more of a research project to figure out if God existed or not, and figured out he did, and then tried to figure out what that relationship looks like and continue down that path to this day. The purpose, so it's an interesting question in this regard. God has so many things in motion. I mean, he's weaving a tapestry that's a massive, beautiful tapestry, and all the threads are our lives, your life, my life. And the thread of a tapestry doesn't really know where it fits in the big scheme of things. It's like a single piece of a puzzle or a phrase out of a long novel. But it's important and it's critical to the story. And so my purpose, kind of where I've landed, I've realized that I'm not an evangelical in the sense that I'm going to fly in an airplane to a faraway country. I find that my giftings for God are more individual. I have a lot of administrative and I'm good with strategic vision type stuff. So I've really found my place within God's kingdom in more the leadership roles in the church, and being in relationship with the pastors and trying to discern what God's trying to do with Corvallis Evangelical in this community. So I've settled on that as kind of where I'm at. Clearly, if I'm in relationship with somebody and have an opportunity to talk about Jesus and my walk, I do that. And it strikes me, I was actually doing a bit of praying pretty regularly with someone who's not in our church anymore. They moved away. But we were talking one morning about God's plan in your life. So for me personally, So what if God's plan for my life was to connect with me in my 20s and come into relationship with me because he had someone that only I was really going to be able to reach. He had someone who is on the fringe of Christianity, doesn't hang out with Christians. It's a person that God's trying to reach. And as I come into a relationship with God, God figures out the tangent, the place where we're going to meet up, the junction point. And in that moment, I'm at that junction point. I'm open to the Holy Spirit. And I say the things to move that person down their path, maybe bring them to a relationship with God or just help them down the path towards that eventual relationship. And I put the question forth to this friend of mine and said, what if your whole walk with Christ was for that one moment? That God knew that he was only going to really be able to use you in that one moment to reach that one person at that one junction, kind of the lost sheep, the 99 and the 1. And would the Christian walk be worth it? And we kick that around, and I mean, it's a pretty quick question. Yeah, it would be worth it. And then I pose this question more to myself than anything: is what if that's already happened? I'm 53 years old, and what if that moment in time where God really used me had already passed? Would I continue to be a devoted follower of Christ, knowing that my purpose, if you will, that point in the story that I was critical, is in the rearview mirror? It's a theological, philosophical sort of a question. The reality of it is, I don't know if I have been used in the way God wanted yet. I don't know if he can't use me again. I don't know all those things. It's above my pay grade. But what I do know is this, that if God has called me to seek the one, then I'm going to be disciplined and diligent and do what I can to do my part in seeking the one. And if I have sought the one, and the one I was meant to reach has already been reached and God is flourishing in that person's life, then I'm going to spend the rest of my life following and being diligent and disciplined in my relationship with God, because it's worth it. Because that relationship was worth it, and my relationship with God is worth it. So planted in Corvallis, Oregon, planted at CEC, planted in leadership at CEC, part-time bass player, I'm going to continue to live out my role, big or small, in God's kingdom, and really all his roles are big, because of what he's done in my life and the relationship I've had with him and the faithfulness that he's shown to me really only brings one response, which is worshiping him. So what's God's purpose in my life? What's my purpose in his story? It's unfolding as we go. I'm happy to be a part of it. And I hope at some point in this story, this was encouraging to you to just continue down the path that God has you on. It's worth it. He's an amazing God, worthy of all our praise. Thanks, church.